Uh, Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Lueth. It is November 23rd, 2025. It is 8:16 a.m. Eastern Time, New York, USA. And I know I say things out loud, and I, I, I say specifically this is not made for kids, okay? Because I'll say bad language, and I talk about topics and subjects that aren't meant for little kids to ponder, okay? I'm very clear about that. But I'm also, oftentimes talking to people who actually do respond to some raised voice and some chirping and foul language. Yeah, I know. Whatever. I'm a big horrible sinner. Whatever. Whatever helps you sleep at night. You misinformed individuals. Right. So I know. My last one was might seem like I'm flipping and flopping, and what I was really trying to get at is that I know why some former players and some people, families and loved ones of players who were fighters, and I mean I understand, but what I'm saying is it has changed some. One, everyone who goes on ice is required to wear a lid and a bucket. Right, with the chin strap operating properly. Okay. Two, fight straps. Okay, gone are the days where you can just pull somebody's jersey over their head and just, pretty much, right, undercut and beat them all senseless. Okay. Three, the rule changes. If you're going to fight, you automatically get 5 minutes, and right, there's other things. You take off the lid, yes. Slowly but surely, you understand? Slowly but surely, things are changing. I know one thing that on, and they were aware of it, and starting to fight checks to ramp up the bench or get the fans involved, or whatever. The fake fighting is like, well, we don't. So slowly but surely, right, they've been working on that too. Okay, but there are guys employed to be guardians and protectors, and one of their major roles on the team is to fight. Now, that's also changing. They also do other things, you understand? Okay? But that has to happen slowly but surely. Okay? You just blanket, make a decision, no more fighting in the NHL. You understand? And those who put that into place, well, you're going to have to walk around and you're going to have to tell all those guys that they are unemployed and they have to get bought out of their contract, or they just suddenly need to, right, know how to play and do other things. Okay, I mean, you really have to know the issues. You have to know the history of the National Hockey League. You have to know where the drivers are for fighting. Okay, it's like I am saying, there are other leagues. Okay, where fighting is not really tolerated, and where there's positions where, right, I mean, if they get pushing, shoving, or pissed off at each other, like fighting might happen, but it's not some on your list of job duties. Okay? Just because you've never heard of me doesn't mean that I haven't been around. It doesn't mean that I haven't been advocating for proper concussion protocols. It doesn't mean that I haven't been pushing for player safety. Do you understand? So the entire league needs to be prepared, and they can only, walk that out slowly but surely. And like I said, some of them, okay, it's a pressure cooker in there, and they're dudes, and they're gonna get pissed off. You understand? So what do you want them to do? You want them to hold it in and then like have street fights, or go home and take it out on their family, or what's the solution? Okay, it isn't that cut and dry. So I know why. I know. I've talked to a former player. I know why. Okay, but it isn't rock'em sock'em ice hockey. And some of the guys who are protectors and guardians, right, they also have other roles now too. So it's preparing the entirety. Okay, some of them who actually play the sport know full well that they could end up in a fight. Personal choice and decision. Okay, and it has changed a lot. I mean, the people who are just there to enforce, okay, that's not really the way it is anymore. They don't get drafted to just enforce. They don't get drafted to just fight anymore. You understand? But slowly but surely, you don't understand the game, the sport, the mentality, all these things. So that's why I'm saying I can't agree to end all fighting in the National Hockey League. I mean, it's gonna. What do you do? Okay, it's gonna happen anyway, and it's better if they, like blow up or lose their shit or get angry or whatever the case may be, that it's in a controlled environment where there's cameras and other people, rather than out in back alleys or at home or in the locker room, like starting up shit with their team because they don't know where to put that energy, feeling, emotion. So that's just me. But I'm getting to the Winnipeg Jets. Um, it is game day. I'm gonna have to maneuver my schedule. I volunteer on Sundays to cook at a group home. I get to do my laundry there, so it works out. So I'm working on trying to figure out how I can listen to the game and do all that, and that's what I'm doing this morning. Um, but there's the 10 o'clock, and I think it's 9 o'clock. I don't know. Yeah, like right, Central Time, and yeah, so that's 11 o'clock for me. Liz and Connor doing the Sunday Winnipeg Sports Talk. They do that every Sunday. So there'll be discussions and other kind of things. But I mean, I will say to the Jets faith, I mean, I will completely understand if some of you kind of get frustrated because I'm just an optimist when it comes to Jets ice hockey. Okay, trust me when I tell you there's stuff we got to get out of this habit. This is never good. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I know that there are things that they need to work on, and obviously, too many turnovers. And if we start down a pattern where we're getting scored on, shorthanded, obviously, I mean, I'm not unrealistic. I just choose to look at the positive things, though, because individually, there's guys, hitting milestones. Certain lines are looking pretty good. Different sometimes, the goalie is doing those good right things, and so just so that I don't. I mean, I don't. I prefer not to ride the roller coaster if you catch my drift. So I just continue to try and look at these things because as a fan and as somebody who I can't go out and get the net for the dudes, I can't get nets. You know what I'm saying? Like, trust me, sometimes I wish I could, right? Okay, I don't know how to do it any better, but especially when there's an empty net, I'm like, empty net, crawl through the TV, pop out, and get the net, or like intimidate the other team, or score a goal, or whatever, or wouldn't it be nice if we could just pick whoever we wanted? All those rules and regulations and all that crap. Salary cap. Like, yeah, we want that guy right there, and then that guy, and that guy. Okay, I know, I know. I'm a fan too. When it comes to the playoffs, I get excitable too, and right, and like guys, damn it. But over the many years being a hockey fan, I've just learned that there's always something positive going on. So even if your team is like dropping down and it looks like they're not going to make the playoffs, number one, don't ever count them out until there is 0.0% chance. That is today's National Hockey League. Okay, so some of the fans, what I'm saying is, as a fan, it's not like I don't get it. Don't worry about that playoff spot right now. Okay, stressing about a playoff spot as a fan, that's just extra stress you don't need. You know what I'm trying to say? Don't sweat it. Okay? They know. They know they have to win games. They know they have to get 2 points in regulation. You understand? It's it's something, it's not like they don't know. And like I said, I am fully aware that coaches can only do so much, and general managers can only do so much, and they're the ones who know who's available, what the cap space is, what the possibilities are. And oftentimes during certain parts of the season there aren't many. As much as we might feel like, well, we need to trade for it. Okay, I sometimes that just screws up the chemistry of the team. Sometimes you get a bitter player from another organization comes in. You see what I'm saying? There's all sorts of factors. So yes, I know I am likely gonna be one of those ridiculously annoying Winnipeg Jets fans who's like, "Whoa, but these guys are getting experience on the NHL ice right now, and then that's gonna pay dividends in the future." Now I know we're a win now team, no doubt, no doubt. Don't be thinking that their mentality or anybody's mentality in the club. I mean, it's pretty obvious they know they're a win now team. Okay, sometimes they can't control what other teams are doing, and I'm sure they're learning quickly that some of them are feeling pressure that may not be there, and they have a little extra time with the puck. Cobbs is, trying to settle in. Okay, um, the fellas, in terms of like defense first, defensive. Listen, okay, I think it's just the way that it gets explained. What I'm talking about is defensive responsibility, and that includes all the skaters and the goalie. All right, some of the guys got legs, okay, to play that 200, and some of the natural goal scorers, they might need to go back, into the defensive zone to retrieve the puck. You understand? Um, and sometimes, right, like if they can do certain kind of good work in the neutral zone, they can prevent the other team. Like, yeah, forcing the other team to turn over the puck instead of the other way around. There are just certain little things, defensive responsibility wise. Okay, so I'm not really trying to say defense first, because that can get confusing and it might send the wrong message. I'm saying defensive responsibility. And some of the natural goal scorers got the legs, they got the perseverance, they got the, their bodies, are good to go for those couple extra seconds or skate strides to touch the puck. I mean, even sometimes just touching the puck because you want to be able to have that, face off, right, in the ozone. And okay, they're just little things, and it is the little things. And sometimes fans get very used to the little things, and you're expecting something, woo, fancy and every other kind of thing. And to be honest with you, sometimes that's not the right way to win and might be the way to lose. You understand? So, I'm just like, I'm one of those grizzled old elder hockey fans. It's just like, yeah, I know. Right. So to say defense first, what I'm saying is defensive responsibility pays dividends and results in actual goals, scores, points. So, for offensive players who are natural goal scorers, we're not asking you to be a defenseman, but there's little things you can do. One, you know, protect the puck really well, no matter what area of the ice you're on. Be a really good puck protector, and that's a defensive maneuver as well. It's both defense and offense. You understand? So, having saying it that way, it's not like we're asking the natural goal scorers, right? I mean, they don't necessarily even have to be two-way players. Maybe, full 200. Okay, maybe each like 185. Maybe they just got that hockey vision and they know, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna get the puck away from this guy. Like they're the ones who start putting the pressure on, and learning how to be really good puck protectors, and learning how to retrieve the puck or stop the puck or get the puck right at least into the neutral zone so that there's a way to get it into the offensive zone without getting called for it. Yeah, you know what? Offsides, okay? Sometimes dumping chases. Okay. I mean, what I'm saying is that I'm confident enough in the core group and some of the younger ones who've been learning, and they have mentors and they have, follow what the other guys are doing in your position. Like, they have that. They have like people lighting the way enough that now the team can concentrate on those little things. So, knowing when to dump and chase, knowing when the other team's getting tired and they're getting ready for a shift change, knowing when, you got a guy coming out of the box on either team, you understand? Because that can happen sometimes. These like hockey vision, what I'm trying to say is, so like the more they work on these, so I'm saying it's like good news because the Jets are actually in a very good place to start concentrating on the little things. So doing those things that, a little more puck protecting, half a second more with the puck so that you're not having turnovers. So understanding the pressure, understanding how much actual real live at pace time they have with the puck. Some of them, they feel pressure, but they have that half second. It's just they don't realize that they have that half second. And right, they try and pass and they get to, turnovers. So a lot of these guys are learning to be a little more patient no matter what position they play. So I'm not saying that our, natural goal scorers and our forwards need to be defensemen. Okay. I'm saying the little things and the things that they can learn from each other, all of them. That's why I'm also saying Taser all about his position really well, and the things that he knows he had to work on, and the things that, like, maybe the little things that he worked on, he can also help impart that to the rest of the guys, because he knows what it takes to go long in the playoffs. Okay, so in some cases it's just like, well, I mean, if it's really bothering you and you're starting to get just forget that the playoffs exist. Okay, like, just sort of limit yourself to game by game. um it can help sometimes, and I know, because we want the guys to win. We want 2 points. And some of us do wish we could just jump on ice and help out, or be the GM and get like super team together. But it just doesn't work that way. And the more you, like, it might help some of the fans. Like, maybe we don't have to ride the roller coaster where it gives us whiplash, and you know what I'm saying. Yeah, like maybe a different kind of roller coaster, because I know how it is. Yeah, I'm not like the playoffs. I have to, you know, I know that there's some things I have to kind of do and step back and take a look and take a deep breath and be like, hey, like, hey, it's not that bad. Like, you know what I'm saying? So as a fan, like, I know. I mean, it's like, okay, well, I'm just saying ahead of time. I apologize if I start to get annoying to some people. It's like, but you just refuse to look at the bad stuff. I'm like, I'm not. I just choose to stress the positive stuff, because there's nothing I can do other than be like, well, Shen needs to start stepping up and maybe doing a little extra work, or talking to the boys and listening to the coaches and trying to figure out how to elevate his game a little here and there every game. Okay, I mean, obviously, we don't want to making turnovers in the neutral zone with grandma, right? But game by game, period by period, practice by practice, meeting by meeting. You know what I'm trying to say? Sometimes it's just not going to happen overnight, but we want these habits to be in them. Good habits, little things, right? You know, put in them, and then we want them to practice them, and we want them to do them. And so, it does start to add up to the whole freaking bench, the whole team doing those little things together as one. And it is win as a team, lose as a team. It just is that way. And there's stuff that we may not understand. Like, we may not see it with our own two eyes with the eye test, why some guys are feeling pressured and they're, right, turnovers, right? You know, but that is something that Lowry and Taser and Morrissey and on and on Connor, what I'm trying to say, these guys, right? Those guys understand that better, and they know how to put it in words and show their fellow teammates and talk to, and so did some of the coaches and the assistant coaches, just little by little by little. Okay? I mean, that's just more realistic to today's National Hockey League. But I'm not worried if we fall out of what appears to be playoff spot. Okay? It's too early in the season to be having any kind of, like, it just adds extra pressure. And these guys got to play all 82 first. And there's nothing they can do about it. Okay? I mean, we can't, we're not headed to the, okay, we can say positively we're headed to the playoffs. But the way the National Hockey League works now, right, there's one team who, unfortunately could get a bunch of injuries and start slipping down, all right, which puts us just in a better spot. and we might be able to avoid injuries and keep the guys as healthy as we can, which is why I personally don't mind if they, stay out of the game for one extra game. Or, right, they're extra super, like one extra, couple extra days makes a huge difference in the National Hockey League. If they gotta be, well, absolutely, if they need to, proceed, move forward with cautious, you know, if the guys need, there's no need to rush them back, because then they start, right. Okay, well, this injury didn't really heal as well, but this one didn't exactly. And then like, at the end of the season, they're nothing but beaten and bruised and hurting, and just for individuals, that's not good. But also, that doesn't bode well in the playoffs either. So I'm probably going to be one of those annoying fans, and I'm not going to apologize for that. Just over years, and it's not because I'm not seeing that there's some guys who may need to elevate. It's not that I'm not seeing that, as a whole team, as a whole bench. I mean, there's not much the goalies can do about that, but the skaters, properly handling the neutral zone, or properly protecting the puck, and more tape to tape passing, things like that. Okay, so that's why I'm saying try to listen to the post game. Okay, at the very least, yes, Arneal and the guys who do press. Okay, and it's a good thing actually that they're not like constantly doing press, constantly at events, and they also spread that work around on the radio sometimes, right? I mean, if the assistant coaches or the video, any kind of that you can get from the team. I mean, there's things they're not going to say, but there are going to be things that they recognize clearly. We have to limit turnovers, okay? But it's realistic that they might not come out the next game looking like Stanley Cup champs either. They are understanding the long haul, okay? And the most difficult part of the season in terms of road games is already over. Okay, yes, that's already over. It's already over. It's done. They learned what they learned. They may not have performed the way any of us might think we want them to, because clearly we want them to win every game. I mean, I know that's unrealistic. Okay, but right. But there are some franchises and teams, I'm telling you, they're expending energy and they're doing things. And, there's starting injuries start to pile up. Some of them are going to start slipping down. Okay, I've been paying attention to other teams. There's some teams that are going to, like, yep, and there's some teams that are injured players. They're still playing. They're rushing their players back. You, you know what I'm saying? So stay the course. Stay the course, Jets fans. Okay, it's okay. We talk about these things and chat or whatever. We know, I agree. Shen needs to start doing those little things and start like showing up a little more and elevating his game. This is true, right? Now, as for Baron, um, or no, sorry, yeah, I think Baron is solid. Okay, like he's got the right kind of attitude, the right kind of you know understanding of play the game right and concentrate on that, and be head in the game the whole time, right? Lambo, hey, you know what I'm saying is, I think at this point in the season, like, trying to find a team who's got a player, trade, And it's just like, what I can say is, well, if you just stick with the moose, he might get caught up again. Okay? I mean, they shouldn't rob himself of that opportunity. Okay? But also, he gets that extra time to work on, the things maybe off ice or on AHL ice or other things that make him very valuable to the Winnipeg Jets specifically. And he's still kind of young. It's like, man, plus you can help the Moose. I mean, you're valued on the Moose too. This is what I'm saying. It's like, I get it, but is there really that big a rush for you to, you know, be up on NHL ice? Is there? You know, you might have to move yourself and your family upheaval. What I'm saying is that if they value you, they know what you're capable of doing right now on NHL ice. There are other guys too, you understand? And they can only have this many, but you might get called back up. You stick with the Moose, you help the Moose, you do those things on, off ice time that, start building and helping you be, an asset on Jets ice because, who knows, might get caught up. You're building into being a Winnipeg Jet. You're you're very young. I know some guys go there when they're 18, 19, but I gotta be honest with you. Somewhere in their career, they end up having to backtrack and learn about some things and do some things, and then it's sort of like it isn't exactly the best way to raise an NHL player. So I think Lambeau should understand he's obviously, you know, an asset to the Jets and the Moose. And I mean, yeah, you're like one of the stars on the Moose, dude. And if you work on those things that and you learn when you were up on NHL, injuries you might get called up, man. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. I'm like, don't cheat yourself out of this opportunity for money or NHL time or anything, because you are an asset to the Jets and the Moose in the hockey community. And you're one of the, right? You can be one of the AHL stars for a little while. That's how I feel. So I'm not going to mention too much about the Wild. I know people say rivalry. I, I'm just hoping every single time that the guys do spend a little bit of time, right, preparing, and the coaching staff, you know, do that little bit of work for just like maybe even an hour. Like, okay, this is what we can expect, and the guys who know some of the guys on the team, like this one's like aggressive, and this one, right, they know, and then people who watch the game be like, okay, well, their D is a little easier to split. So the one thing I do appreciate about the offensive lines having to do with the Winnipeg Jets is some are more north-south oriented and some are a little more east-west oriented. And to be honest with you, having lines that are really good at one of them and gel as opposed to the other, because there are times when you know the lines that are good at east west have a really high chance of scoring on teams that fall apart when you east west them. So it might not be the first line. I mean, it might not even be the second line. That's another thing that you have to consider. If the only thing any of your lines know how to do is north south, it's going to be harder to score goals. So if you got a couple lines really good at the north south, I mean, hey, good, because there be teams and defensive and other things, right, and systems and structures that have more vulnerabilities and holes and every other kind of thing. Uh, and so you need the north south. And then there's some that are north southing them is difficult, but right, because they can't cover both at the same time. So, try and stay positive. Try and understand that we are a playoff team, no matter what the standings say. And these guys know now defensive responsibility. They know, okay, we gotta, do this, and we have to spend a little more time, patience with the puck, and we have to work on not letting teams, put that pressure on us so that we, do turnovers. Okay, there's way more positive stuff going on than you might think, and I get it. But yeah, I mean, I'll point out Shen. I'm not saying he sucks. I'm saying overall, I think we all can agree he needs to work on some of that little stuff, and he needs to start elevating, and maybe he needs to, work one of the coaches or something, a little, like at an optional practice, or after team meeting for like half hour or something, or do something at home that helps him, or when they're waiting to play a game or something. Yeah, instead of playing soccer with the fellows. I know I heard some of them play hacky sack, and yeah, I mean I don't know, right? Yeah, frisbee golf, whatever. I mean, a lot of time it's like the soccer thing, um, you know. But it also helps the guys gel and understand when they do that before games. I mean, he's got it in him. But yeah, Shen obviously is one that we all can kind of look at like, all right, well, there's some things you need to work on, man, and you need to start, really elevating, pacing with the guys. So, go Jets. And I know Jets fans. Like, why are we not talking about these things? I'm like, well, because there's not much I can do about them. And all of us, you kind of understand and know the Jets and see this, like, we kind of get that. If you're listening to Coach Arneal, and if you're listening to the guys doing press, you'll understand that they also know there's some things we got to do. Right? But we don't really want to be too open and chatty about it, because it's not any of the other team's business. You get what I'm trying to say? Right. I mean, I have full faith in them as a playoff team, straight out. And the worst part is over now. Okay, yep, the hardest part of that during that was a lengthy eye opening. Yeah, stint of away games. Okay. The good thing is, right, they had a little time to look to see what they need to do to today's, Minnesota, Minnesota, yeah, the Wild, and they'll be home. So, here's to the Jets beating the Wild, right? Yeah, I might annoy someone, but it's not because I'm ignoring the fact that some of the guys need to elevate or whatever. I also know some of them could be playing injured. Some of them, could just have had trouble sleeping, and they're trying to get okay. That's just the case in the National Hockey League. a few of the guys, maybe struggling with someone natural. So some of their guys know sometimes they got to carry a guy a little bit on the line. Sometimes they got to take more. Oh, okay, I see what's happening. Right. Sometimes they got to, take more minutes and play a little longer. Shot blockers. We don't want them all, bruised up because we want them to, right? You know what I'm saying? So go Jets. Yeah, there's so much good there, and it's gonna start becoming more and more recognizable. Okay, um, but yeah, hey, we're we're aiming for a win. 2 points regulation, and who's gonna score first? I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna say I'm not sure. I'm gonna say a defenseman is gonna score first. Like picking Vardy. Yeah, it's like, but I've been, I could sense JMO, like, oh, he just want, yeah, that's what he just want. Okay, great. But that's what I'm saying. I'm like, yeah, it was, it's either going to be a defenseman or it's going to be Taser. Okay, they're just things you can expect from me as an ice hockey fan, and you're just basically going to be arguing with a brick wall. You change my mind, I'm not going to do that. I just know. I'm like, nope, I don't care what you're saying to me. All right, I know. Yeah, upset fan because of some reason or another. Hey, don't sweat the standings right now. Okay? So, go Jets go. Ice hockey rocks back.